And we're here live like Channel 5. What's up, guys? Coach O'Neill, Office Coordinator here at Slagle High School, located in Kansas City, Kansas. Back with you again with another video. Uh, Obviously, I waited till Friday to do a video. I think what I'm starting to do, just because of how my schedule has been starting to configure, that I'm going to more than likely start doing all of my videos on Friday. But if not, I mean, I'm more than likely for sure I'll be doing one video a week just because of the schedule and time constraints and stuff like that. So just a little heads up on that one. So anyway, I'm here with you guys today just to talk about breaking down film. All right, breaking down defensive film. I've talked to a lot of coaches before throughout this week and in the previous week. Not only about offense, not only about the spread offense, but more importantly, how do we break down film? Obviously, every coach out there breaks down film differently, but I do think it is important for coaches who obviously make these videos like I do as well to point out the more detailed things that we do behind closed doors besides the X's and O's. Just because you also have other coaches out there who may not understand how to watch film or who may not know what to watch or what key things to point out in order to make sure that their offense is successful. So this is just my way of doing it. This is how I was taught by the coaches who taught me on the collegiate level, the coaches who taught me on the high school level back home in Texas. All these guys who were very successful in their craft to bless me enough to give me their information so I can obviously advance and develop in my own craft as a coach as well. So this is going to be a quick video. I don't plan on making it 20 minutes, but if it turns out that way, my apologies. So anyway, guys, let's just dive right into it. So the number one thing for me, and this is what I learned as a young coach, all right, being an assistant coach, not being a coordinator, kind of sitting in the back and, watching how the coordinators do things. And, like I said, when I started watching film with coaches, when I was a grad assistant at Missouri Valley College, and I had to break down film, and trust me, guys, I had to break down a lot of film. That's really where I got majority of my football intellect from, was when I was a grad assistant running back coach for my alma mater, Missouri Valley College. The coaches drilled me with football on a daily, guys. I'm talking about from 7 in the morning to 12 midnight, I was on the grind. So I thanked them for that, and I was blessed for that opportunity. So anyway, this is the number one thing that I think a lot of the young coaches do in their craft. And this is one thing I think a lot of young coaches do in general when it comes to watching film. When you're watching film, don't watch the ball. All right. I've noticed, I've watched a lot of coaches from my own experience who, how can I put it? For myself as well as watching young coaches, especially for myself. And I'll just speak on myself in general just because it's me. I had a point where I would watch film and I'll just watch the ball. I'll be a fan of the game. Close the door for me. I'll be a fan of the game. And, I'll sit there and I'll just watch the ball. And, I'm not really paying attention to the things that we're supposed to be breaking down in order to make sure that our team is getting the best information to be successful out of. So that's my number one thing for a lot of young coaches, a lot of young guys who are just maybe young coordinators who are diving into their career right now. This is a big, bright star up there, fellas and ladies, if you're coaching football. Do not watch the ball when you're watching film. All right, you watch the ball, you get lost. All right, you get lost on the things you're doing. You start oohing and eyeing on the kids that they have making plays and making 1 minute. I'm doing something. But then, you'll have kids that are making plays, and you'll get lost in just watching them and watching how they perform. So that will be my number one deal out of watching film, is make sure that you do not watch the football. All right, you want to watch what they're doing. Besides watching the ball, watch how they're moving the ball. What are they doing to make sure that ball can get downfield, or not get downfield? What are they doing to make sure that they can stop the ball on the defense side, because we're breaking down defense film. So the first thing out of breaking down film, this is the go-to. Obviously, if you look at it, and this is how I do it, just off the fact that obviously as a spread guy, even though I'm a spread guy, I believe in running the football. So for me, my number one deal is to start from the bottom up. So I want to start with the fronts. All right. So as you can see right here, eyes on the fronts. All right. So I want to know what front they're in. All right. This is the things that you should be writing down. These are the things that you should be telling your coaches if you give them specific jobs or what they need to do. So if you got a guy, your offensive line coach, he's watching defensive fronts. I want to know what fronts they're in, and I also want to know what is their favorite front. So obviously, and I believe I said this in the previous video before, generally when it comes to coaching football, guys, all right, no coaches out there just adding on new things each and every week, because it get to the point where your kids will get confused. It get to the point that your kids will start forgetting and missing assignments due to the fact that you're just overloading them with information that they do not need. I'm one of the things that I remember. I didn't read it, but I remember seeing a quote by Bruce Lee. It stated, he will fear a man who works on one kick. All right. He will fear a man who works on one kick than fear a man who works on multiple. So in the essence of that, think about it in football. Obviously, as football coaches, we have our base foundation of plays that we run as offensive coaches and defense coaches as well. We have our base foundation of plays that is the bulk of our playbook. Everything is built off that foundation. So a coach would never give a kid new material every week, even if they didn't understand that material from last week. So when it comes to that, every coach, every defense has a favorite front, a favorite personnel that they like to run that you can easily key on, that can make sure that you can ensure that this is their bread and butter. So when it comes to that, we want to attack what they like to do. All right, that's another thing as an offensive guy. I want to attack what you're good at. And my philosophy on that is, if I attack you with what you're good at and it crumbles, or I find a kink in your armor, then from there, everything that you didn't work on, obviously the little things that you didn't work, or the little things, the things that are not as important in your defense you didn't work on, your kids will be more timid you will be more timid as a coach, defensive coach, to call those plays, just because you worked on the foundation of your defense. And if I'm attacking that and I'm taking that away, that will obviously make a defensive coordinator sweat more faster than the guy who's going to court, who's going to court for life. So this is a deal. So make sure when you figure out what is their favorite defensive front, you want to attack that defensive front with your best run play. All right, or pass protection, whatever it is that you're doing in your scheme. You want to be able to attack that and make sure that you're very successful. All right. Afterwards, you want to know what coverage that they like to do. All right, what coverage do they like to play? Along with their coverage, do they play hard or soft coverage? Now, obviously, when some guys might not understand what hard or soft coverage is, and I teach my kids here this. So basically, hard coverage is when your DB is 4 to press. All right, he's 4 to press on your receiver. 4 yards, 4 yards off the press. To me, that's hard coverage. To me, you're in the receiver's vicinity, and you want to try to redirect him right then and right now. So if they're playing hard coverage, obviously they might put hands on if they're pressing you, or they might play soft coverage or play 4 yards off and still play hard coverage and allow you to attack them, and then they get hands on. Either way, to me, it's hard coverage if it's within that press to 4 yard range. All right. Soft coverage is basically when they play 6 yards off. All right. So generally, I think a DB or cornerback in essence plays more than 6 to 8 yards off a receiver if they're playing soft coverage. If they're just playing their regular base defense, I want to say generally in all defenses, your defensive back is about probably paying 6 to 7, maybe 6 to 8 yards off the receiver. So that to me considers soft coverage, because I understand now when my receiver goes into his route and he's exploding off the ball, that DB is basically trying to keep that distance and keep that receiver away from his bubble, his DB bubble. So that gives us opportunity to hit them underneath and do small things. So determine if they like to play hard, their DBs, their cornerbacks, outside linebackers, no matter. Determine if they like to play hard or soft coverage versus your receivers. All right. Then you go from there, so they're in man or they're in zone. All right. So like I said here, this past year, I want to say I only seen one team that we played, that we competed against, that played a certain type of zone. Most of the time, guys we competed against in this league, at least that I've seen, it was a lot of man defense. It was a lot of blitzing, and that's due to the fact that our O-line last year was pretty much not as strong, and we was lacking to certain things in that area. So the guys will send blitzers. They'll send 6 guys, 7 guys sometimes, and try to pretty much disrupt our offensive line. Which obviously everybody knows the offense, that your O-line is the foundation of your offense, and if they're not clicking, it's going to be a long day for your quarterback, your running backs, and your receivers. So you want to know if they're in zone or in man. All right, this helps. All right, so this is another thing that you want to key on. Now, another thing with that, when they're running into these coverages, or when they're playing this coverage, do they make personnel change? All right, and what I mean by that is, so obviously if say they're playing a cover 3 cover 4, and maybe they don't want a linebacker on the field. Maybe in certain pass protection or passing downs, they'll sub out a linebacker for an extra DB or nickel or something in that fashion. Or they feel comfortable that they keep their linebackers on the field. They don't rotate DBs in. They don't do anything in that fashion. So it's important to know if they make personnel changes within their own defensive formations or defensive personnel, just because that helps you determine what type of things that you want to do versus that personnel change. So it's important to also always watch to see if they make personnel change. Now, along with this is another thing that you would like to do in game. All right. Obviously, we're breaking down film here, but in game, that's something, and I probably will have a video on about in game, in-game planning and in-game game planning and stuff in that fashion. But this is something that you also want to do during the game situation. Watch their sidelines, see who they're subbing in, see who they're subbing out in certain situations in that fashion. All right. So that's another key deal. All right. Another thing, and this is for the benefits of one, if you're going to attack these guys or not, and two, the benefits your athletes. All right. All right. So, and that last thing will be, or at least on here right now, the last thing will be, I want you to find out, we want to know who's the best and worst player from each position group on the field. All right. We got to know who it is. I want to know who's the best DN, who's the worst DN, who's the best pass rusher, who's the worst rusher, who's more physical, who's not that physical. I want to know all these things because that lets me know who I would like to attack. All right. Maybe I want to attack the strongest guy this game and rattle him. And I know, because I know if I attack that defender and he's rattled, then the rest of the defense is going to be rattled. Or maybe I want to hit the guys where their weak link is and make them have to adjust by removing him off the field or move him around the field, anything in that fashion. These things help you because, say, for example, say they have you have a nickel that obviously you can tell by the way they're moving him on the field in certain pass situations. They move him to the boundary instead of having him play the field. Well, we can key that as offensive guys, and we can adjust our offensive play calling to them moving him to the boundary rather than keeping him to the field side. And that will help our athletes and help ourselves more. On top of that, you also want to know your guys to know who they're competing against. Now, as an athlete, when I played ball in high school ball in Texas, my head coach, offensive coordinators, or the whole coaching staff, they'll have on the board as you walk into the field house, every guy, the 1 and 2 from each position group on defense. All right, I'm speaking offense now. So the 1 and 2 from each position groups on defense, and they're giving you their height and weight. They're giving you, if they have any particular key thing about them, they'll give them one specific things about them. If he's a star guy in the area, they want you to know who's the best guy on the field, because we want to hit them in the mouth now. As soon as the game started, that was our motto when I played ball. The coaches wanted to hit the best guy on the field in the mouth, and we wanted to see how his teammates react to us punching him in the mouth over and over again. So that's kind of my philosophy now as a coach. Now that I'm coaching ball, and I'm an offensive coordinator, that I'm the same way, where I want to figure out who's the best guy, and I'm trying to go at him right now. I want to know, how good have your defensive coach trained you? How well were you prepared for this game? And we're going to find out. Now, obviously, if he steps up to the plate, then as a coach, make sure you have an adjustment. But if he rattles, hey, open that playbook up, baby. All right. So that's the main deal. So these key things right here is something that you want to pay attention to when it comes to breaking down film. So there's more information to this that I'm going to add on. So these are just the foundation of it all, of breaking down film and what are the things you want to look at. So another thing that you want to pay attention to, and this is where you get real specific. All right. So excuse my handwriting. So what I have here is what is being done, or I just have what is done in situations.